टीम प्ले ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರಾ ಅಣ್ಣ?
ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का। आओ सफ़र यहाँ से करें आसमान का, बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का। इल्मो कमाल फजलो शेयारो शूर तक फैली है दिल नवाज महक दूर दूर तक। मिलता यहाँ निसाब है सारे जहान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का। दरसगाह की है ये भी जुस्तजू, सब फासला मिटाते चलो दरमियान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का। ग़र्बो जुनूब से हो के शर्क़ो वो शुमाल से बढ़ो ख्याल मिला दो ख्याल से। चर्चा हो कायनात में हिंदुस्तान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का। फसले सदा बहार से बस्ती बसी रहे, मिलकर दुआ करो कि ये खेती हरी रहे, साया रहे सरों पे किसी साहिबान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का। आओ सफ़र यहाँ से करे आसमान का, ये बाबे शहरे इल्म है शहर इल्म है उर्दू ज़बान का.
Thank you, IMC team. Well, I must inform you that this Tarana has been composed by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, and IMC team has done a very great job by syncing the words with the visuals, and you can see it's a beautiful totality which catches our eyes and pleases our ears. So, well, with these words, I now request Professor P.H. Muhammad to welcome the guest.
Thank you, Saeed. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Department of Sociology, I welcome the today's guests who came all the way to participate in our today's seminar on contextualizing Muslim studies in Indian sociology. Although the seminar theme will be introduced by the head of the department, my friend Dr. K.M. Ziauddin, I feel it pleasure to inform you all that this is being organized in honor of Professor late Imtiaz Ahmad, one of the doyens in the Indian sociological literature, and who is revered most for his contribution shifting Indian sociological thought towards stratification among the Muslims in India, who were otherwise, to be considered homogeneous social groups, then heterogeneous heterogeneity we find. And there was hardly anybody envisaging this before, other than Professor Imtiaz Ahmad. So we are organizing this seminar in honor of him. Friends, I must say something about the role of social scientists or a researcher for that matter, that they feel the gap of research existing in particular arena. The Department of Sociology of MANUU rises to the occasions. It invoked Ibn Khaldun by organizing a seminar bringing Khaldun's sociology into the sociological discourse when he was ignored in the domain. Similarly, friends, the seminar was organized on language, culture and society, focusing on the Urdu language, community and society in the past by the Department of Sociology. And this seminar also is one such attempt invoking Professor Imtiaz Ahmad and his contribution to social stratification. We have invited mostly the academicians, eminent scholars who are acquainted with Professor Imtiaz Ahmad and his works, and thus we have Professor Hilal Ahmad from CSDS, who will be joining us online. He is online already, I believe. He represents the CSDS New Delhi and an eminent scholar who mostly has his academic interest in political Islam and Muslim modernities. He will deliver the keynote address today. I welcome you all wholeheartedly to this grand event today, Professor Hilal Ahmad. Please give him a big round of claps. Friends, we also have Professor Arvinder Ansari as the chief guest of the function today. She has had an immense influence of Professor Imtiaz Ahmad and his writings on her. Professor Arvinder is a professor of sociology and former head Department of Sociology, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. And she also served as the director formerly of the Center for Social Excellence and Inclusive Policy there. Professor Arvinder is not new to this university and to this department, and of course to most of the audience who are present in the hall. So I feel she doesn't require much introduction. I welcome you, Professor Arvinder Ansari. I also take this opportunity to welcome my friend and the Dean School of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Farida Siddiqui. Then, friends, I take a little more time continuing this. I would say that a great personality is often described as kind, emphatic, genuine, and open-minded. These great personalities are usually good listeners, have a positive attitude, and are respectful towards others. A great personality also includes qualities such as being compassionate, understanding, and having a good sense of humor. And friends, we have a personality here amongst us today with all these qualities and more. He is none other than the Vice Chancellor, Professor Ainul Hassan. I must say that we are fortunate to have him to be the Vice Chancellor of this university, and we are, glad that we have Professor Ainul Hassan here presiding over this function. I welcome you, sir. I welcome you to this grand event, and please give him a great round of applause. Professor Mustafa Hussain, sir, my friend Professor Vivek Kumar, Professor Kancha Elaya, Professor Vinod Jairat, Professor Muhammad Talib, Professor Asim Prakash, my friends Professor Nagaraju, Ranu Jain, Salma Aziz, Shajia, Raisa, Usmani, Arshad Amanullah, all of them will be joining us in deliberations later this event, participating in this seminar. I welcome you all to this seminar. Friends, I see a galaxy of audience among whom there are the guests who came from different parts of the country to participate and present their papers in this seminar. I welcome you all for this seminar. My beloved students, my research scholars, faculty and staff of the department and Department of Sociology and other departments from MANUU, I welcome you all. I also welcome my friend, colleague, Dr. K.M. Jiauddin, the head of the Department of Sociology, and who is coordinated this seminar to this. And thank you one and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, here is a moment to honor our guest with bouquets and mementos. I request Hina, our PhD scholar, to bring bouquet and memento. I humbly request to our Honorable Vice Chancellor to present memento and bouquet to Professor Arvinder Ansari, who is our chief guest. She is an eminent sociologist, has been kept writing on issues of communal harmony, violence, ethnicities. Please. Okay. Now I request Shakil, our MA student, to bring bouquet and memento. I again request to Honorable Vice Chancellor to present memento and bouquet to Mrs. Imtiaz, Ms. Sabiha Banu. She is with us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us today on this occasion and coming all the way from Delhi to down south to be with us today on this occasion. Ms. Sabiha, an MA and MPhil from AMU, worked as a social scientist with Sita Ram Bhartiya Institute, Prerna, IGNU for a short duration, and for a long time since 1998, she remained a housewife and assisted Professor Imtiaz Ahmad in his academic journey in all possible ways. Now I request Roshni to bring bouquet and memento. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to present memento and bouquet to Professor Mustafa Hussain. I request Mustafa Karim to bring bouquet and memento. And again, I request to our Honorable Vice Chancellor to present memento and bouquet to Professor Vivek Kumar, a very eminent sociologist, a public intellectual. And he has recently edited a volume of Kamzor Work Ka Samaj Shastra. This volume is a beautiful reckoning and totally in sync with this theme of the seminar. I again request Faisal Aziz to bring bouquet and memento. I request to our Honorable Vice Chancellor to present memento and bouquet to Professor Ranu Jain, an eminent professor from TIS, Mumbai. I request Hina, our PhD scholar, to bring bouquet and memento, and then I request Dr. Kim Ziauddin to present memento and bouquet to our Honorable Vice Chancellor. Please, sir. Please accept our gratitude, sir. Thank you for all the support that you have given to us. I request Roshni to bring bouquet and memento, and I request Dr. Kim Ziauddin to present memento and bouquet to our Dean of School of Arts and Social Sciences. She has been a great support to us. So we are done with the rituals. Let's come to the work now. Okay. So I request our volunteer Shakil to bring bouquet and memento, and request VC to honor him. Memento. Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you all. Now, I request Dr. Kim Ziauddin, who is seminar convener, associate professor, and head Department of Sociology, to introduce the theme of the seminar.
Thank you, Saeed. Good morning to everyone, and I hearty welcome to everyone in this hall. The Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Syed Ainul Hasan Sahab, Professor Farida Siddiqui, Dean, School of Social Sciences, our chief guest, Professor Arvinder Ansari, coming from Jamia Millia Islamia, and the keynote speaker, Professor Hilal Ahmed, CSDS. Everyone is aware of his work. We could not have Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed, Registrar, who could not join. He was traveling to Aurangabad, but he has conveyed his best wishes. We do have, as Professor Muhammad was sharing about our guests from various corners of the country, I welcome each one of you on this session. I would not take much time, but I must thank to those who could not join this August gathering. Professor Maitri Chaudhary, who is retired from Jawaharlal Nehru University. She is president of Indian Sociological Society. Professor Nasreen Fazal Boy, who retired from University of Mumbai. Professor Muhammad Talib, who will be joining for valedictory tomorrow from University of Oxford. Professor Sangmitra Acharya from JNU, Professor Abdul Mateen, Professor Ghulam Dastagir, Professor Ajay, Professor Vinod Jairat, Professor Purendra, Professor Indra Ramarao, Professor Abdul Shaban, and Professor Amirullah Khan you know about. I'm mentioning these names because the concept note and the planning about the idea which came to me, I had discussed with all of them, and they had assured that they will be joining, but because of the clash of dates in March, you have so many conferences, they could not join, but they have conveyed their best wishes and looking for the outcome of the conference in next few months. This conference is in the remembrance of Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, and I also do remember Professor A.R. Momin, who passed away a few years back, Professor Asghar Ali Engineer, at this moment, because these are some minds in the country who have shaped people, students like us, through their writing, through their discussion, through their work. And I'm happy, very grateful to Mrs. Imtiaz that who agreed at the last moment to come with us, so that we feel that Professor Imtiaz Ahmed is with us. Next 2 days, we'll be discussing about the work. There could not have been any better honor to remember the work by Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, who has been one of the most identified, distinguished scholars among the students and young scholars, no doubt among his colleagues and then academia across the world. Why we wanted this conference is also because, the whole idea of having India as cultural, religious, and social landscape, when we understand this diversity, that serves as a unique canvas for Indian sociology and sociology of world, particularly when delving into the intricacies of Muslim communities. Today's seminar marks a significant milestone in our collective journey towards unraveling the layers that constitute the dynamic relationship between our collective journey, dynamic relationship between social groups belonging to Islamic faith and the social fabric of this incredible nation and other communities living in this embedded society, particularly Indian society. As we embark on this intellectual voyage, it is crucial to acknowledge the interconnectedness of religion, culture, and society in shaping the experiences of Muslims in India. Our discussion in the next 2 days aims to delve into the historical roots, socio-cultural dynamics and economic, and also examine the contemporary challenges and opportunities that would define the narrative of and studies on Muslims communities in Indian sociology and in the domain of social sciences. Therefore, we wanted a conceptual framework to evolve from this seminar as how do we approach Muslims in India and in the Indian domain of social sciences. As we understand, Muslim as a term is the most diversified faith-based community that practices diversities in their everyday socio-cultural life and belongs to hundreds of lingual families in specific geographical locations within country. Muslim is visibly a diverse social group in India with a range of plural practices in kinship, marriages, rituals, social interactions, and preferential marriages within the caste-like hierarchical social arrangements in all practices. And that is in making them a community with a distinct identity in India, and not only by faith-based but also their practices. Therefore, this seminar will be having explorations into locating and contextualizing studies on Muslim and studying of Muslim studies in the context of making it more interdisciplinary and paving path of making studies on Indian Muslims to the core of Indian sociology. Therefore, we have many Indian sociologists who have joined with us. In reference to that, we have many studies which talks about sociology of Islam. Sociologies of Islam, but we do not have much studies on sociology of Muslims in India. Therefore, Nasreen Fazal Boy, whom many of you are aware, was one such person who wrote in 2005 in some of the important journals, CPW and Sociological Bulletin, talking about how sociology of Muslims could be part of Indian sociology and why this area has been neglected in India over the last 5-7 decades. And through those writings, we find that Indian sociology somewhere has missed out this compartment to locate Indian Muslims in sociological narrations by doing empirical examinations and exploring various dimensions of Muslims. However, in after 2006 onward, we have number of studies which examines Muslims in India in terms of their discrimination, deprivations, denial, exclusion, and so forth. But how come those studies are not becoming part of or core of Indian sociology is one such important questions that many sociologists have raised. Sociologists from Mumbai University and JNU, Jawaharlal University, have also raised the way we raise the sociology of Dalits and Adivasis in India. Why not sociology of Muslims in Indian sociology? At the end, in that context, Department of Sociology of Maulana Azad National Urdu University decided to commemorate and tribute this seminar to Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, organizing 2 days offline discussions which may bring some theoretical foundations, methodological nuances related to this core area of study. I must acknowledge contribution and support from the department's colleagues, everyone, Professor Muhammad, Dr. Saeed, Dr. Hilal, Dr. Vivekanand, Dr. Ihtisam, and my young researcher who have read this draft note before we circulated everyone. Why I'm mentioning research scholar? I wanted them to understand what was the contribution of Professor Imtiaz Ahmed. And Dr. Malik Rehan and Dr. Imtiaz from Distance Education, who is our extended family of sociology. Therefore, at the end, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the speakers, participants, and those who could not join. Professor Hilal Ahmed wanted to come. He was very excited to join offline, but due to his health issues, he had to drop it. But I hope may our collective efforts contribute to the growth and enrichment of Muslim studies within the broader context of Indian sociology and add into the knowledge of social sciences. I thank you, and I hope that this exploration will begin from now onward till evening and tomorrow, and we would explore the most. I also invite all the participants who have come from across the country to explore our campus, which is one of the most beautiful campus in Telangana. under the leadership of Honorable Vice Chancellor, and we have been awarded also one of the best campus of the state. I also thank you, Dr. Saeed, for giving all the help in running this program and having this very shortly organized program. With all this, I again thank all the participants from bottom of my help, and very happy, and I'm feeling very much responsible because just before this conference, I saw an order which was making me head of the department, making my position very comfortable. But I am thankful to the Honorable Vice Chancellor and the University Administration for giving this responsibility and having such an academic event before us. Thank you one and all, everyone, and thank you, Honorable Vice Chancellor and guest at the dais. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ziauddin, for aptly highlighting the relevance of this seminar and also bringing out what are the lacunas in Indian sociology that could be filled up with this small attempt that we are doing. I must endorse your words with the view that this seminar is an attempt to critically engage with the ontological priorities and epistemologies of doing sociology in India. Professor Maitri aptly highlighted that, in the changed context of globalization or global capitalism or the changing role of the state or the nationalism, we must reimagine or visit the practices and the institutions of doing sociology in India. And what Professor T.K. Oman also said, that the caste may be the new lens to understand even the Muslim communities. And what Professor Hilal also highlighted in his work, that there is a new kind of ecology that is very predominant in India, that is religionization of Indian politics. In these lights, I think we must locate what and how of Muslim, are studies in the country. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, we have a brief halt again for two minor rituals. We will actually we'll do the souvenir release, and we will release this souvenir. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor and other dignitaries on the dais to do this. The book of abstract that has been prepared. Thank you so much. I request Hina to bring the book. Now we will do the release of a book which is written by Dr. K.M. Ziauddin. The title of the book is Dalit Community, Sociology of Health in Dalit Community. Thank you so much. Now, friends, we'll move to the keynote address of this inaugural session. Which will be done by Professor Hilal Ahmed, who is from CSDS, New Delhi. Let me give a very brief introduction of him. Friends, Professor Hilal Ahmed works at Center for Studies of Developing Societies in New Delhi, India. Professor Hilal Ahmed has earned his PhD from School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. His academic work primarily revolves around political Islam, Indian democracy, and the politics of symbols in South Asia. Professor Ahmed is known for his interdisciplinary approach and also demystifying the existing binaries in understanding Muslims in India. His work is very much acknowledged, and his work includes Muslim political discourse on post-colonial India, Allah Naam Ki Siyasat, Siyasi Muslim, democratic accommodations, minorities in contemporary India. And very recently, his book has come out, The Muslims in New India. Professor Hilal is also engaged with certain documentaries such as Encountering the Political Jama Masjid and Kutub Ek Adhura Afsana, showcase his ability to blend scholarly research with the visual storytelling. So with these words, I welcome Professor Hilal and invite him for delivering this keynote address. Professor Hilal, you may take around 15 minutes. Okay, yeah, please, you may start now, sir.
First of all, formally, thank you very much for inviting me. I was, as Zia Bhai said, very excited to join you all in person, but due to certain reasons, I couldn't come. I apologize. It's my loss because I wanted to meet all the friends there, especially the students. But anyway, thanks to technology, I still feel my presence there. I'm also grateful to Professor Ansari and Vivek Bhai who are actually there. And it is a great honor to be with them and present a few things about the concept note, which is brilliantly written and which actually provokes me to say something on Imtiaz Saab, and as well as locating or contextualizing Muslim studies in Indian sociology. And this is a very interesting question, and we are talking about this question in 2024, and it reminds me an essay which Imtiaz Saab wrote in 1971. And the title of that short note was For a Sociology of India. What is interesting is that he makes the point which Zia Bhai just outlined. And there are two interesting things which I would like to share with you. And in that very note, he emphasized the fact that we need to have a sociology of India in its entirety, where the research on Hindu communities should not be the model to make sense of the diversified Muslim communities we have in India. Interestingly and incidentally, I was also born in 1971, so it means that 4 generations have passed and we are asking the same question. And this is quite ironic. So, what I am going to do in my next 15-20 minutes, not 20 minutes, I will be very brief. I will share with you a long essay which I have just finished on Imtiaz Saab and the debates on Muslim identity in post-colonial India. And I will touch upon only one aspect, that is Imtiaz Saab's understanding of lived Islam. This is an important point of departure, I think, because I have intentionally chosen that aspect, because in any case, Vivek Bhai is going to talk about in his lecture the question of social stratification. So I'll touch upon the question of social stratification briefly, but the focus would be on lived Islam. Imtiaz Ahmed's intellectual contribution, it seems, revolves around a simple and yet highly challenging question: how to think of Muslims in India. His published work, especially the 4 edited volumes on Muslim identity, Islamic cultures, and social stratification, that redefined the contours of sociological exploration in the 1970s and 80s, demonstrate his deep engagement with this intellectual quest. Despite this remarkable consistency in his research agenda, Ahmed did not make any claim to have a unique intellectual position on Muslim identity. The explanatory phrases like Muslim social stratification, lived Islam, social assimilation thesis, or even equilibrium thesis, which is given with the title, which is something T.N. Madan calls, are often employed to describe Imtiaz Ahmed's work in a way do not adequately capture the ever-evolving nature of his thinking. Precisely for this reason, there is a need to further explore the question how to think about Muslims in India. And in today's talk, I would touch upon only one aspect, that is the question of lived Islam. Imtiaz Ahmed's early writings show his intellectual unease with the state of sociological researches of Muslim in India. He highlights 2 serious limitations in this regard: an adherence to rigid historicism and an enthusiasm for macro generalization. Ahmed finds a tendency among scholars to overemphasize the historical facts and categories to understand contemporary Muslim societies. This historicism creates a misleading impression that Indian Muslim societies could only be understood as historical residue of their Islamic past. Ahmed, it seems, makes a conscious distinction between the past and history. His writing encourages us to acknowledge the significance of the past in the everyday life situation of Muslims. The history, in his theoretical framework, operates as a backgrounder. Ahmed also finds an interesting intellectual eagerness for making broad macro claims, and generalization about Muslims. He recognized an elusive search for a fixed, permanent, and universally applicable model for explaining the social world of Muslim communities. This type of research is, in his view, remained insensitive towards micro-level complexities. To get rid of this impressionist intellectual attitude, Ahmad argues that the localized expression of caste, language, gender, and class must be taken into consideration to evolve empirically rich and analytically sophisticated explorations. Study of everydayness of Islam remained an important intellectual concern for Imtiaz Ahmad. Instead of proposing any fixed formulation on Indian Islam, he takes a different and somewhat difficult route. In an article published in 1975, Ahmad offered a specific level analysis of the religious system of Muslims in India. He identifies three distinct levels of belief system for accommodating various expressions of everyday Islam. According to him, practices that draw legitimacy from religious text constitute the first level of belief system. He argues that Muslims of India acknowledge them to be paramount and their observance is supposed to be on a higher plane than is true belief and rituals. The second level, according to him, includes belief and values of a more limited spread. They are not derived from the Islamic text, yet they remain integral to belief system. And finally, the third level is the level of practical religion. It contains many elements such as belief in supernatural spirits, worship of saints and holy men, and belief in magic. Ahmad claims that these belief, values, and ritual practice at each level enjoy a certain degree of autonomy, yet at the same time, they remain integral constraint of religious system. He developed this line of argument in his later writing, especially in the introduction of his edited volume, Ritual and Religion Among Muslims in India, which was published in 1982. He identified two identifiable domains of religion among Muslims in India, a formal and scriptural Islam and a local or lived Islam that is validated by custom and rituals. He argues that a synthesis has been worked out in South Asia between the high Islamic ideals and custom-centric tradition, and therefore these two components coexist as complementary and integral part of a common religious system. Ahmad does not present this argument as something called equilibrium thesis, which is a template given to him by T.N. Madan. And he does not claim that his argument on lived Islam as self-explanatory or fixed model that may be used to explain various forms of Muslim religiosity. He treats Islam as a sociological phenomena which needs to be examined by employing anthropological tools. Despite this adherence to empirical research on Islamic belief system, Ahmad remains quite concerned about the limitation of social anthropology. So we have to remember one thing, that on the one hand, he was saying that there is a need to do systematic anthropological research on Islam, but at the same time, he was also apprehensive about the use of the concept and categories that are given to us. In the introduction of the edited volume, Lived Islam in South Asia, that published in 2018, he makes an important distinction between local Islam as an experienced and local Islam as an object of analytical analysis. He shows that local Islam involves accepted and even taken for granted experiences. These experiences are not always very reflective. Muslim individuals at the grassroots level do not have any compulsion or the need to objectivize or codify these experiences for making them object of analysis. The theological elite and anthropological researchers treat religious belief system rather differently. Ahmad argues, and I quote, "Theology and anthropology claim a higher degree of reflection than folk expression of Islam, and for that reason, they regard these expressions as less ordered, less objective, and somehow less complete version of religious experiences," unquote. As a result, the taken for granted everyday experiences are often relegated to margin. The theologians reject them to legitimize their eternal meaning of religion, while anthropologists treat these expressions as diluted forms. Ahmed thus finds a strange similarity between theological imagination and anthropological conceptualization. This is an important argument. On the one hand, it shows that the significance of the study of local religious rituals and experiences for understanding the ways in which Islam as an idea is practiced by a Muslim in a variety of social and cultural contexts. At the same time, this argument reminds us that the objectivization of experiences for the sake of sociological analysis might produce a very different set of problems. The search for an anthropology of Islam, hence, is all about finding adequate conceptual tools, flexible and ever evolving analytical framework, and argumentative openness. Now, I would like to make a few critical comments on the ways in which Ahmed's notion of lived Islam is presented to us. Ahmed's position on lived Islam raises a set of serious questions, and I would like to evoke a very interesting debate that took place in 1980s. Historian Francis Robinson made an interesting criticism of Ahmed's argument in the early 1980s. Robinson underlines three limitations of Ahmed's argument. First, in Robinson's view, the Sant or Sufi worship at local shrine, which is one of the key features of custom-centric local Islamic religiosity, does not make the high Islamic ideal less important. The local Islam, in this sense, is not fixed, and one cannot ignore the possibility that the process to achieve pure and universal Islam is absent at the grassroots level. Robinson's second criticism was about the uniqueness of Indian Islam. He claims that all Islamic societies contain a mixture of local pre-Islamic practices and high Islamic ideals. In this sense, the shape of Indian Islam, the relationship between law and actual practices, seems to have much in common with other Islamic societies. Finally, Robinson finds Ahmed's thesis historically weak. He claims that Islamic history offers us a number of evidences that suggest that there has always been a dynamic relationship between Muslim societies and pattern of perfection transmitted and exemplified by learned and holy men. As a result, and this is a quote from Robinson, some form of traffic is always taking place between version of ideal Muslim life and the life Muslim lead, unquote. Robinson's critical and in a way provocative assessment of Imtiaz Ahmed's work on Indian Islam and Muslim societies triggered a serious debate on Muslim identity in the 1980s. Interestingly, Imtiaz Ahmed did not directly participate in this debate to defend his formulation. His absence in the debate is crucial. He was a great reviewer. We must know that he reviewed a lot of books. Who would always make critical comment on serious books on Islam and Indian Muslim. Yet he preferred to remain silent on this interesting multi-layered discussion. Ahmed's silence is understandable on methodological ground, and this is an important point which I would like to emphasize for further discussion. We must remember that he was not interested in producing any fixed model of explanation. His intellectual agenda, as his later work suggests, was to unfold a dynamic of empirical research on Muslims in India. As a result, one finds interesting shifts and changes in his argument. And this is a very important point because usually we tend to think that what he wrote in 1972 continued to be the vantage point of his exploration in 2009, which is actually not true. For instance, his 2009 essay makes it clear that the imagination of Islam as an egalitarian religion does not stop us to recognize the hierarchical social structure of Muslim societies. He argues, and I quote, the difference between the society as it exists and as it ought to exist must be taken seriously simply to maintain that the Islamic proclamation in favor of social equality is more than in the nature of an ideal for the future than a description of an existing state of affairs. Ahmed does not elaborate, we also have to remember that Ahmed does not celebrate lived Islam as an ideal India-specific secular phenomena. He is fully aware of the fact that communal polarization functions differently. His 2017 essay, which is actually a lecture which he delivered, and that essay was published in Sociological Bulletin, is very relevant. He argues that even though Hindus and Muslims share many common cultural values and practices, it is not necessary that these commonality should eventually lead to a lasting homogeneity between these two communities. The internal diversity of a religious group disappears when community interests are defined in practical terms. Ahmed Wright, and I would like to quote him here at the moment. These are his words. The identity of the traditional grouping based on caste or sect is effective only so long as the conflict or competition is confined within the religious community. When, on the other hand, competition involves two or more religious communities, the internal cleavages within each community usually merge together to form the wider religious community, and consequently, it is the religious identity that assumes greater prominence. Unquote. This context-specific formulation introduces us to the process by which religious communities are transformed into neatly defined interest-driven political entities. This argument also shows that Ahmed does not ignore the complexities of community formation at various levels. This argumentative openness, in my view, and this is what I am going to conclude with this criticism, I would like to take a different position on Ahmed's formulation. This argumentative openness, which I admire, should not be exaggerated. Ahmed's claim that lived Islam and communal polarization are inextricably linked to each other as sociological processes, and this configuration defines the Islamic religious experiences in actual sense, is no doubt highly valuable. However, it is analytically unsatisfactory. T.N. Madan's criticism of this equilibrium model is relevant to elaborate on this point. Madan does not ignore the descriptive potential of Imtiaz Ahmed's argument, yet he remains apprehensive about his explanatory capacity. Madan proposes, and this is something which, T.N. Madan develops another model to accommodate Imtiaz Ahmed's argument in a different direction. And I find this line of reasoning quite provocative and interesting. Madan proposes a hierarchical model to explain the relationship between late Islam and scriptural Islam. And I would like to quote T.N. Madan here. He says, lived Islam is encompassed by scriptural Islam, not as an alien phenomena by itself, but in a dialectical relationship to it as a contrary. The relationship between the two thus be conceptualized as one of the complementary binary opposition. The universal may no more deny the particular than the particular the universal. The totality of the religious experiences Muslim would turn out to be first characterized by creative rather than disruptive internal tension between the scriptural injection and local practices. Unquote. This argument is analytically valuable. The strength of the local tradition and the character of the wider environment is an important point of reference, especially to make sense of the representation of Muslim identity in contemporary Hindutva-dominated environment. Relying on Madan's hierarchical model, I make crucial distinction between substantive Muslimness and the discourse of Muslimness to further explore the role of wider environment, media-driven public debates, and cinematic representation of Islam and Muslims on Muslim identity formation. Let me clarify by what I mean by substantive Muslimness and the discourse of Muslimness. Substantive Muslimness, in my view, may be referred to the multiple ways in which Muslim identity is constituted in a variety of regional and local contexts. Issues such as caste, language, class, and religion play a significant role in determining the multifaceted identity of a Muslim individual in real-life situation. The hierarchical model of T.N. Madan helps us to find out the nature of interaction between lived Islam and scriptural-centric religious ideals in a particular context. This is what I call substantive Muslimness. The discourse of Muslimness, however, introduces us to a very different and somewhat undifferentiated forms of Muslimness. Classification of Muslim as a national religious minority in legal constitutional sense, the description of medieval Indian history as Islamic rule in popular culture, and the media debate on jihad and terrorism also influence the Muslim self-perception. These undifferentiated images of a homogeneous Muslim community in public discourses eventually become an important identity marker, identity making sources by which Muslims in local context define themselves as a social group. The interplay between substantive Muslimness and the discourse of Muslimness determine the actual expression of Muslim identity. The substantive Muslimness gives it concrete real life meaning, while the discourse of Muslimness provided ready to use national or global template. This framework, in my view, is useful to answer an unresolved tussle Imtiaz Ahmad himself find in his own work. By the way, he is aware of the limitation, the explanatory limitation of his work, and this is very valuable because there is an interesting self-criticism which we find in his writing. This self-criticism is very evident in his 2017 essay, which we have just discussed. Ahmed realized that there is a possibility that his description of Hindu and Muslim as political community might give an impression to the reader as if that he is advocating the two-nation theory. In order to avoid this confusion, he makes a rather broad generalization. He says, and I quote, "From time immemorial, India has attracted people of different culture, region, races, and interaction among them, whether military or peaceful, helped to create a culture which would have to be regarded as syncretic. However, Hinduism and to extent Indian civilization remained an amorphous entity. Other cultural streams were partly integrated into the national culture." Unquote. Ahmed uses terms like Hinduism, Indian civilization, and national culture rather freely to make the point that his argument should not be reduced to the two-nation theory. This is actually, in my view, a problematic line of reasoning. Ahmed, in this sense, could not see the distinction between substantive formation of religious identity, which produced a historically evolved syncretic culture, and for that matter, lived Islam, and impact of political sociological discourses on them. This limitation of Ahmed's argument, however, does not make his conceptualization of lived Islam insignificant, because the idea of lived Islam is actually provoke us to make a sociological study of Muslim community in a different direction. In my view, on the contrary, Ahmad's work encourages us to discover those unexplored aspects of Muslim identity which have not yet been given serious intellectual attention. Perhaps this is what Imtiaz Ahmed wanted us to do, and this is what this seminar is going to do. Thank you very much.
Professor Arvinder Ansari is an eminent sociologist, works at Department of Sociology at Jamia Millia Islamia. She has profoundly engaged in doing research on issues of ethnicity, gender, conflict, violence, culture, and identity. In her most recent work, she has highlighted her concerns in the work includes Muslim alienation, rhetoric or reality, gender, development, and violence. Please, ma'am.
I take this opportunity to thank the organizers, Dr. Ziauddin, for giving me this opportunity to pay tribute to my teacher, Professor Imtiaz Ahmed. The distinguished speakers, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Syed Ainul Hasan Sahab, keynote speaker Hilal Ahmed, Dean, Faculty Social Sciences, Professor Farida Siddiqui, Dr. P.H. Mahmood, Professor Vivek Kumar, Mrs. M. Imtiaz Ahmed, and respected dignitaries, students who are present there, a very good morning. Friends, we just had a very thought-provoking keynote address by Hilal Ahmed, who talked about the work and the legacy of Professor Imtiaz Ahmed. So I am taking this opportunity to, I know Professor Imtiaz Ahmed has been well-read and he was a frequent visitor to MANUU, but there are many young students who are sitting here amongst us. I would like to know them about who was Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, and I think that is the duty which has been given to me to pay a tribute to this towering personality who has intrigued this debate and who as an insider, was a critique and wanted to look at the Muslim community from very, very different perspective. An insider and who had a guts to critique his own community and to look at it from a different lens. Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, a renowned scholar and distinguished intellectual, served as a professor at the Center for Political Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University. He was born on April 28, 1940 in Uttar Pradesh, and he passed on 19 June 2023. His scholarly journey began at Lucknow University, where he completed his undergraduate and master's degree. His insatiable thirst for knowledge led him to Delhi University, where he earned his MPhil degree. His expertise and profound knowledge was not confined to one institution. He expanded his pedagogic influence as a visiting professor at University of Missouri in United States. Moreover, he was a fellow at South Asia Center for University of Chicago. Professor Ahmed is celebrated for his insightful work on the Muslim community in India, marking him as a seminal figure in the study of South Asian cultures and societies. Professor Imtiaz Ahmed's modest upbringing in Uttar Pradesh fundamentally shaped his empathetic and intellectual curious approach to education and research. His middle-class roots provided a lens to understand the varied social fabric of India, which became central to his work on social inequalities. His academic pursuits at Lucknow University and Delhi School of Economics honed his critical thinking and familiarity with cultural sociological frameworks. His mastery of both Hindustani and English allowed him to communicate effectively across diverse groups, fostering culture of dialogue. And he was always encouraging students, and I would see after giving his presentations and lectures, students would follow him outside the lawns and would have discussions. Here, this university has also been witness to this, his interaction with the students. His book, which made a significant contribution, which Hilal was also talking about, Caste and Social Stratification Among Muslims in India, which was published in 1973, and then he later on published a rejoinder to this also, had 4 volumes, which, thank you, which centered around the question of stratification among Muslims, religion and ritual among Muslims, family and marriage among Muslims, and modernization and social change in Muslims. It is through these 4 volumes that Professor Ahmed and his collaborators advocated for looking at Islam from perspective of a researcher, not as a theologian, which Hilal has, widely explained in his presentation. Professor Ahmed urged the need for understanding Islam and Muslim societies from inside. For him, texts only say what religion is. But if one has to understand how community understands the text and regulates their life, we need to look at religion from a lived experiences. For a researcher, religion, or for that matter, any cultural idea as practiced, is more important than as prescribed in text. Professor Ahmed has written extensively for national and international journals. Today, any scholarly work in Muslim community in India and South Asia cannot ignore contributions made by Professor Ahmed almost 50 years ago. The debates and discussions he initiated reverberate even today in the academic world. Therefore, the theme of this 2-day seminar, Contextualizing Muslim Studies in Indian Sociology, is very important as it reverberates important concerns in writings of Professor Ahmed. Professor Imtiaz Ahmed's legacy in academia is marked by several significant contributions that have shaped the field of sociology, particularly in context of India. He was also recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award by Indian Sociological Society in 2014. One of his foremost contributions was his advocacy for nuanced approach to understanding social change in India. He emphasized the necessity of engaging critically with historical and cultural sociological frameworks, rather than relying solely on modernization theories or Western development models. In his essay, Note on Sociology in India, Ahmed challenged prominent anthropologists such as Dumont and Pocock, pointing out their oversight in capturing the complex social realities of India. He urged for deeper exploration of social inequalities among religious groups, highlighting the importance of acknowledging intergroup relations and historical processes. Professor Ahmed encouraged scholars to consider multiple theoretical tendencies and controversies within the field of sociology, emphasizing the need to address inherent contradictions and differences within Indian society. Beyond his scholarly contributions, Professor Ahmed was renowned for his exceptional teaching abilities, original thinking, perceptiveness, and mentorship to numerous students, both at JNU and beyond. His students were outside JNU, AMU, MANUU, Jamia, everywhere he has his students. And also I would like to share that I was not his direct PhD student. I was a student of Professor Anand Kumar, but he was my mentor, and Anand Kumar asked me to do my PhD informally under his supervision. So, he was always kind of encouraging his students to look at new topics. When I went and I spoke to him, sir, that I'm working in communal violence in India, he said, it is much exhausted topic. You look at communal violence from gender perspective. And in 1993, when he asked me to look at communal violence from gender perspective, it was really, very difficult for me, because I was looking as usual, जो हम लोगों के अंदर डर होता है, literature. तो जब मैं literature देखने गई तो सिर्फ partition की कहानियाँ थी, and he encouraged me to go to field. He's an empiricist, and he encouraged me to go to field and ask questions, which, were very difficult questions. He would tell me, कि in विधवाओं से पूछो 1984 riot victims whom I had studied, Sikh riots, कि how do they feel? He would tell me that, look, they would feel, कुछ लोगों को ऐसा लगेगा, कुछ औरतें ऐसा भी महसूस करेंगी that they have got their independence, freedom. And it was shock for me that how do I ask questions about sexuality and emancipation to these women? But believe me, when I started and when I had interactions, so the training he gave me and the insights which came were very different and very new, which were also a very important, which created an understanding about the gender perspective on understanding violence. So that's why Professor Ahmed is aptly described as an empiricist. He didn't just present theory, he substantiated it with evidence, fostering a dialogue between theory and empirical data. This approach established him as a distinguished social scientist. He would always encourage his students to go out in field and do exploratory studies. Beyond his scholarly contributions, it is his magnanimity, which is very important for us, the students who are here, that enriched us, his students. His touch was felt in myriad ways. His engagement with us transcended the traditional boundaries of academia. He was a master craftsman, sculpting the intellect and character of his students without ever resorting to reprimand. His mentorship forged a familial bond and that reached into the heart of his students. Particularly, I have been blessed. He was not only a mentor to me, he was a parent also, and he was parent to many of the students. He would embrace their children, and for me, for my children, he was a grandfather, a jovial nana who engaged them in conversation ranging from technology to the teenage dilemmas. His nurturing extended to the point where at his final rites, at his burial, when the imam solely inquired, "Inka waris kaun hai?" So the answer was that hum sab inke waris hain. We all are his heirs. Professor Ahmed was unwavering in his pursuit of truth, speaking with conviction regardless of potential repercussions. In this heightened environment of polarization, the highest homage we can pay to Professor Ahmed is to embody the principles of secularism he ardently supported throughout in his lifetime. Professor Ahmed's rich legacy is destined to be perpetuated through his numerous students, nurturing future generations in their exploration and understanding of society and politics, not just in India, but globally. And I really congratulate that we are taking this to Zia for taking this baton forward and his legacy, which really needs to be institutionalized. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words and thoughtful reflections on highlighting the work of Professor Imtiaz and paying tributes to him. I now request our respected Dean, School of Arts and Social Science, Professor Farida Siddiqui, to address the House.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Ainul Hasan Sahab, keynote speaker Dr. Hilal, our chief guest in today's program, Professor Arvinder Ansari, Professor P.H. Muhammad, convener of this program, Dr. Ziauddin Sahab, distinguished speakers, Professor Vivek and Sabihapa. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I'm glad that this two-day national seminar in commemoration of Professor Imtiaz Ahmed is being organized by the Department of Sociology. Organizing a seminar is the best way by a university to pay tribute to a teacher by the students. So I'm glad that his students are organizing this program. As Dr. Hilal was discussing about the Muslim identity and exclusionary processes, because of the paucity of time, I will not be speaking more. I will not be taking much of the time because we have a meeting at 11:30 and we have to go. But as far as the question of exclusionary processes is concerned, we can speak a lot about the exclusion of Muslims in India. Such a committee has already revealed multidimensional exclusion of Muslims in the country, and we already know that Muslims have been facing deficit in education, deficit in employment, deficit in politics. They are also facing deficit in access to credit. They are facing financial exclusion in the country. So there is multidimensional exclusion prevailing in the society, and in I think 1870 or 75, Maulana Altaf Hussain Hali expressed in one of the couplet, he says that na sanat mein harfat mein hum na rakhte hain manzilat naukari mein na hissa hamara hai saudagari mein. तो जिस एज ओल्ड मल्टीडायमेंशनल एक्सक्लूजन की हम आज बात कर रहे हैं वो 18th सेंचुरी में 19th सेंचुरी में भी जारी था. वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द रीजंस बिहाइंड इट एंड वी नीड टू गिव सम वेरी कॉन्क्रीट suggestions for policy formulations so that a significant minority of the country is being becomes part of the inclusionary processes of the country. Then only the seminar like this would be having some meaning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor for potential remarks. Sir, please.
Well, distinguished guests on the dais and off the dais, professors, scholars, participants, girls and boys. Well, I had very long association with Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, right from 1978. And he was an intellectual par excellence, very pleasant persona. And he used to speak for hours together in the midst of large number of students, and loved by big chunk of students, admired by many intellectual and scholars throughout his academic career. Well, today we remember Professor Imtiaz Ahmed. It's really something, and there's so many things, you see, but right now I have to confine myself to a few words only. Well, this is a wonderful initiative, and I have seen during a couple of months series of conferences, seminars, and workshops, highly relevant today. This is also one of them. And I'm glad that you have taken initiative to deliberate upon a very important aspect of, we say India is too diverse, of course. But diversity amongst Muslims is also very clear. They are too diverse. You can't have one set of ideology or conviction or participation. It's very difficult. So you cannot have one idea. Look, this is how. Their engagements are different. Variety. You see, throughout the history you can see. And their participation in rituals and in practices also known. So many rituals, so many practices. But yes, when you say identity, question of identity comes, yes, their identity is one. Their participation in nation building is known. But what political understanding is, that's a different matter. We are not dealing with politics. As you know what happened, you see, during the course of Hazrat Nizamuddin Awliya stayed in Delhi, you see, starting, from 1238 to 1325. So long years. And so many rulers came and, disappeared. Now, during all these time, he never visited, Nizamuddin Awliya never visited to the political circle of that rulers. They were coming to his dargah. And that's how, you see, here is another example, the kind of attraction. People were drawn to his khema. That was peculiarity. And still, today you go there, the kind of crowd we see in Nizamuddin, admired by many. Those who had nothing to do with Majlis-e-Sama, you see, they sit there, you see, for hours together, and they say they remember. This is how you see, and if you say that this is Sufism, and this is non-Islamic or something, some practices, some rituals, and this, that, people are not bothered about it. You see. Those having devotion, you see, they go there for their own solace, for their own satisfaction, no matter what comes. So these are, these things are to be discussed, again and again, and let us see how it goes. In India, nobody can catch hold of anybody's collar, When someone says, इंसान अपने साथ खुदा को न रख सका, मस्जिद बनाई है कि उसी में खुदा रहे. You can say only in India. Or someone says, you see, the qawwals, normally you see they, why शराब पीने दे मस्जिद में बैठ कर या वो जगह बता दे जहाँ पर खुदा ना हो. तालियां तालियां तालियां. See why you say these things, you say the blasphemy. न था कुछ तो खुदा था, कुछ न होता तो खुदा होता. डुबोया हम इसको होने ना, मैं होता तो क्या होता. लोग पूरा एक्यूज कर दिया. And nobody, Mirza Ghalib was a great poet. See, this is how the attitude is. Let us see what is the crux of the matter. See, it is wonderful. Sociology is the whole range of sociology. See, recently Professor Farida is here, Dean, and a wonderful, series of lectures. There was a workshop, in fact. Professor Amitabh Kundu, Kanchalaya, and others, you see, Arun Kumar and Zoya Hassan, and they all participated there. Look, MANUU has opened the door. Please remember, this place is a place of discussion. And very successfully you can conclude your seminars, your conferences, your workshops. Deliberate upon. Come out with a concrete suggestion. Ultimately, one should not say whether it is socio-economic or socio-political or socio-cultural, socio-linguistics or socio-religious. I mean, so all these things have to be debated. But don't disappoint. हमें यकीन था तुम सर उतार लाओगे. किसे खबर थी कि चादर उतार लाओगे. संभल न पाएगा जिस रोज तुमसे अपना मकान, मेरे मकान के अंदर उतार लाओगे. यकीन है कि खुदा हो मगर कहूंगा नहीं, तुम आसमां से पैगंबर उतार लाओगे. My best tribute to Professor Imtiaz Ahmed and best wishes to the participants and organizers of this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your appreciation and also highlighting certain issues related to diversity, hierarchies, and the issues of complexities among Muslim communities. I am sure that we will take up all such issues in our 2 days of deliberations. And I must say this, sir, to you that the galaxy of great professors who are assembling in MANUU, who are associated with MANUU, like Professor Amitabh Kundu, Professor Deepak Kumar, Professor Thoret, and many more. It is all because of your effort, your proactive action that MANUU is becoming a very good place for academic deliberations. Thank you so much, sir, to you. Now I request the seminar convener, Dr. Kaim Ziauddin, to offer vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Sayyid Ainul Hasan साहब, आपकी हौसला अफजाई, आपकी रहनुमाई, आपकी पूरी काविशें हम लोग कोशिश करते हैं कि एकेडमिक डेलिब्रेशंस के ज़रिए हासिल करें. बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने इन तमाम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और इन तमाम इनिशिएटिव्स को मदद दी और हमेशा रहनुमाई फरमाई. यूनिवर्सिटी के तमाम अफसरान, ख़ास तौर से रजिस्ट्रार, फाइनेंस ऑफिसर्स और तमाम ऑफिसर्स का भी बहुत शुक्रिया कि उन्होंने इस सेमिनार को ऑर्गेनाइज़ करने में मदद की. प्रोफेसर फरीदा सिद्दीकी, डीन स्कूल ऑफ सोशल साइंसेज, इससे बेहतर नुमाया डीन हमारे दरमियान नहीं हो सकती थी. जब भी हम किसी तरह का प्रोग्राम, मुझे यकीन नहीं होता पुराने दौर को याद करके कि आपके सेमिनार की फ़ाइल एक दिन में वापस आ जाती है अप्रूवल के बाद. इससे बेहतर निज़ाम इस यूनिवर्सिटी में नहीं हो सकती थी. तमाम मेहमानों का बहुत शुक्रिया, ख़ास तौर से प्रोफेसर हिलाल अहमद, आप नहीं आ सके लेकिन उम्मीद है कि आने वाले दिनों में हम आपको ज़रूर ऑफलाइन सुनेंगे. प्रोफेसर विवेक कुमार जो आज पहली इम्तियाज़ अहमद मेमोरियल लेक्चर इस सेशन के बाद देंगे, आपका भी बहुत शुक्रिया. प्रोफेसर रानू जैन, प्रोफेसर आसिम प्रकाश, डिप्टी डायरेक्टर TISS हैदराबाद कैंपस के, प्रोफेसर नागराजू फ्रॉम यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ हैदराबाद, और तमाम चेयर्स जो इस आने वाले 2 दिनों में प्रोग्राम को चेयर करेंगे, प्रोफेसर शाहिदा, प्रोफेसर अफरोज़ आलम, प्रोफेसर मोहम्मद शाहिद रज़ा और तमाम प्रोफेसर्स. अब सामने बैठे हुए तमाम हमारे सीनियर कुलीग्स का भी बहुत शुक्रिया, ख़ास तौर से डीन स्टूडेंट वेलफेयर प्रोफेसर अली मसरफ जायसी साहब, आपका बहुत शुक्रिया. स्कूल ऑफ सोशल साइंसेस एंड आर्ट्स के तमाम टीचर्स और सदर शोबा का भी बहुत शुक्रिया. मैं वक्त की कमी से आप तमाम का नाम नहीं ले रहा हूं, लेकिन आप मेरी जज्बातों को रिसीव करेंगे. मेरे तमाम स्टूडेंट्स जो यहाँ बैठे हैं, ऐसे प्रोग्राम से बहुत कम होते हैं जहाँ पर स्टूडेंट्स की मेजॉरिटी ज़्यादा होती है. मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि आप इस मौजू पर हाजिर हुए और आप आने वाले 2 दिनों में इससे ज़रूर फ़ायदा उठाएँगे. ख़ास तौर से हिंदुस्तान से आए तकरीबन 30-35 पार्टिसिपेंट अलग अलग यूनिवर्सिटी से, अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी, JNU, जामिया मिलिया, लखनऊ, पटना, गया, केरल के कई यूनिवर्सिटी से, TISS मुंबई से प्रोफेसर रानू जैन और हैदराबाद कैंपस से, IITs के कई कैंपस से हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट आए। आप तमाम का बेहद शुक्रिया। हमारे ऑनरेबल वाइस चांसलर साहब एक लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल करते रहे हैं और ख़ास तौर से मैं बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ मिसेस इम्तियाज़ अहमद सबीहा बानो मैडम का, जिसे सर कहते हैं इक्वल हाफ़, हम लोग जनरली बेटर हाफ़ यूज़ करते हैं, वाइस चांसलर साहब उसे इक्वल हाफ़ कहते हैं। तो इम्तियाज़ साहब के इक्वल हाफ़ का बेहद शुक्रिया कि आप यहाँ आई और इस प्रोग्राम को कामयाब बनाने में मदद किया। आखिर में मैं तमाम डिपार्टमेंट के कुलीग्स का बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि कम वक्त में और डेट चेंज होने के बाद भी आपने इन पूरे प्रोग्राम को मुकम्मल किया, और ख़ास तौर से प्रोफेसर PH मोहम्मद जो फॉर्मर हेड ऑफ़ द डिपार्टमेंट थे हमारे दरमियान मौजूद थे, बहुत शुक्रिया आपके तमाम सपोर्ट का। डॉक्टर विवेकानंद, डॉक्टर सईद, डॉक्टर एहतशाम, डॉक्टर हिलाल, डॉक्टर इम्तियाज़, डॉक्टर मलिक रेहान एंड ऑल PhD एंड मास्टर्स स्टूडेंट ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट, आपके बिना ऐसे प्रोग्राम कभी नहीं हो सकते और आज इसीलिए मुकम्मल हो रहा है। और ख़ास तौर से स्कूल ऑफ आर्ट्स एंड सोशल साइंसेज के कई सारे PhD स्टूडेंट्स हैं जो इस प्रोग्राम में शामिल हैं, ऑर्गेनाइजिंग टीम का हिस्सा हैं, अलग अलग सेशंस को वो कोऑर्डिनेट कर रहे हैं। आप तमाम का बेहद शुक्रिया। डीन ऑफिस के तमाम स्टाफ का बहुत शुक्रिया। सेंटर फॉर सोशल एक्सलेंस एंड स्टडीज़ के तमाम स्टाफ का बेहद शुक्रिया। IMC के तमाम दोस्तों का शुक्रिया, बासित और जावेद, CIT से दीपक, रजिस्ट्रार ऑफिस, वाइस चांसलर ऑफिस, डीन ऑफिस एंड फाइनेंस ऑफिसर ऑफिस से तमाम स्टाफ का बेहद शुक्रिया। आखिर में मैं आप तमाम का बेहद शुक्रगुजार हूँ। मेरे घर से भी कुछ लोग यहाँ आ गए हैं, बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप आज के इस प्रोग्राम में शामिल हैं, मैंने अभी देखा, बेहद शुक्रिया आपका। और once and all, I really feel very humble that all of you came with a very short time of period and thinking that the second day will be Ramzan. But I hope that we will have all the arrangements for those who have Ramzan fasting and those who are also having normal days. Professor Vivek Kumar Sahab, thank you so much for having even class in your department and coming especially for this memorial lecture. आपका बेहद शुक्रिया। आप तमाम का शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि आप यहाँ आए और उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आने वाले दिनों में आप इस पूरे प्रोग्राम को एंजॉय करेंगे। थैंक यू वन एंड ऑल।
Thank you, Dr. Ziauddin. Well, yeah, you aptly highlighted. Ramzan is tomorrow, but it is our sacred duty to do this, justice with this seminar. Yeah, now we'll close this session with national anthem. Please stay, friends. Yeah, you may stand up for national anthem. Yes. Thank you so much.